Welcome to the Donkey Kong Iceberg, Tier 1. Modern Donkey Kong is the grandson of the arcade Donkey Kong. This Donkey Kong? Not you. Let me explain. The Donkey Kong series started in July of 1981. It was just Donkey Kong. You'd play as some red guy who probably wouldn't get popular at all, trying to save a woman named Pauline from Donkey Kong. Well, immediately after this game, Donkey Kong Jr. is released, where you play as the son of the previous Donkey Kong, and I'll just be calling him Jr. Well, you eventually end up saving the previous Donkey Kong, and Jr. goes on to be in following games. He's in quite a good number of games, but during development of Donkey Kong Country, Jr. was originally gonna appear with a redesign, but Nintendo didn't like the redesign of the character and ordered Rare, the company who used to make Donkey Kong, to either retain the character's original appearance or redesign him into a new character. So goodbye Jr., hello Diddy Kong, but another character was also introduced to Donkey Kong Country, Cranky Kong, with pretty much the scrapping of Jr. and making of Cranky Kong or Donkey Kong Sr. Basically, it's a big fan theory that Cranky Kong is the Donkey Kong from the arcade games, and the Donkey Kong you play as now is what Jr. grew up into, and then Diddy Kong was just added later. There's a lot of evidence supporting it, but it's never been officially stated by Nintendo what really happened with Jr. The DK Rap. The DK Rap is the intro for Donkey Kong 64. Once you boot up the game, you'll see a rap playing and it'll eventually lead into the main menu. Like how most games have their main menu be a trailer or something, this one is an entire rap introducing you to the Kong family that you're gonna play as throughout the game. Speaking of the Kong family, it gets fleshed out in the Donkey Kong Country cartoon. The Donkey Kong Country cartoon aired between 1997 and 2000. This show has the level of animation quality that bowling alleys do. It's definitely something. It's really weird. Aside from the animation, the voice acting obviously doesn't line up with the characters too well, and the show sparked a lot of memes with certain frames of it. It's not bad. I mean, some of the musical numbers are genuinely good, but a lot of it is really rough. It does have a lot of lore for the Donkey Kong universe, and I guess people liked it enough to where it got 2 seasons. I'll have the whole show linked in the description. It's all on YouTube. They just don't care about the copyright. It's definitely a weird watch. It's on like Donkey Kong. The phrase "it's on like Donkey Kong" has a weird history, or I guess lack of one. It's not confirmed who said it first. Some reports say it's a Robert Morey of San Francisco, someone who evidently ran an arcade in the 80s, would close down his arcade for the night, grab a beer and slam it saying it's on like Donkey Kong around all the people leaving the arcade. There's not a whole lot of evidence supporting that this Robert Morey even exists. It's more just referenced here and there. But the first ever official report of the line that we can for sure see is by Ice Cube, who had it as an opening line for his 1992 album The Predator. Either way, Nintendo filed for a patent of the phrase in 2010, and has been used in advertising ever since. Banjo and Conker connection. Banjo and Conker have a connection to Donkey Kong through shared appearances in Diddy Kong Racing. While this initially made fans think they existed in the same universe as Donkey Kong and Mario, the creators of Banjo-Kazooie and Conker, Greg Mayles and Chris Seaver, have both stated that the franchises don't share a universe. Purely off Donkey Kong's connection to other Nintendo characters, if they were to share a universe, it would be a massive mess of figuring out who's connected to what. It's as much a connection as Minecraft and Sonic have. They're both going to be in the new racing game, but lore-wise, no connection at all. Diddy's Kong Quest. The second Donkey Kong Country game is called Donkey Kong Country 2 Diddy's Kong Quest. Most people would read it wrong, you'd think it'd just be called Diddy Kong's Quest, but it's a play on words. It's supposed to sound like Diddy's Conquest. I can't blame people for reading this wrong, as I only learned of it as scripting now that it's Diddy's Conquest. It's really confusing. Mario is a DK spin-off. Mario's first ever appearance was in Donkey Kong in 1981, being the main character you play as rescuing Pauline. And it wasn't until 1983, when Donkey Kong 3 released, that Mario would get his own game, Mario Bros. So the Mario series is entirely a spin-off of Donkey Kong. Without Donkey Kong, we'd have nothing Mario related, and without Mario, Nintendo would be very different. Wrinkly's death. This is Wrinkly Kong, also known as Mrs. Kong. She first appeared in Donkey Kong Country 2, but has been deceased and a ghost since DK64. Brinkley mostly just provides information and helps save the player's game, but yeah, she's the deceased wife of Cranky, and every appearance of her outside of Country 2 and 3, she's been a ghost. We don't know how she died, it's sort of implied it's just a natural occurrence of old age, but it's kind of shocking for Nintendo to have something like this. The only other Nintendo franchises that have deaths, I'm not going to spoil which characters die, but the only franchises to have characters really die, at least that I could think of, would be ones like Xenoblade, Fire Emblem, Zelda, Metroid. There's others, but for the grand scheme of Nintendo, not many games have characters die, especially not as big characters to the lore. Tier 2. Tiny Kong redesign. This is what Tiny Kong used to look like. A small kid who was Dixie Kong's younger sister. She appeared in Donkey Kong 64 and, she was a character, pretty standard kid character. Then out of nowhere, Nintendo decided to completely redesign her. So when Diddy Kong Racing for the DS came out, she looked different. It's hard to tell from the DS quality, so I'll move to a newer game with her, but she was redesigned into a super tall teenage version of her older character. Some fans really loved it, some fans despised it. It's just really weird to see such a massive change. For her character, it kind of makes sense. It's stated that she can change size depending on her mood, so I guess it could be that she just wanted to be bigger. It's just really odd to see the change out of nowhere. New Funky Mode. For the re-release of Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze for the Switch, a new Funky Mode was added to the game. This mode would let you play through the game as Funky Kong, and it was a lot easier. Funky Kong has more health, 5 hearts, can breathe underwater, jump twice in midair, hover, walk on spikes, roll or corkscrew indefinitely, and items were cheaper and more powerful in Funky Mode, and you can use them mid-level if you want. This mode was certainly a lot easier of an experience, but you got to play as Funky Kong, so some people preferred it. It was really like playing the game on easy mode. Cranky Twitter Takeover. For February 20th, 2014, Nintendo had a Cranky Takeover, where for a good 8 hours, Cranky was posting from the Nintendo of America account. Some of the tweets were promoting Tropical Freeze releasing, but most of them were Cranky Kong learning about the internet, posting really bad memes. The memes that are so unfunny they're hilarious. It was something else. I'll have a good number of them on the screen. One of them was just lol Rickroll in all caps with Cranky Kong on it, and I laughed way too hard. Billy Mitchell. Billy Mitchell is a character. Not a game character. No, I doubt Nintendo could come up with such a good villain. Billy Mitchell was the guy who got the world record for Donkey Kong in 1982. But there was a lot of things weird about his record back then, and since, it was found out that he cheated for it. And he's not too happy when people say that. When there was a documentary made on him, I'll have it on screen now, basically the documentary put him in a bad light and he got really mad and sued them for it. And other places, like Twin Galaxies, the speedrunning company that, had his high score, he also sued because they found it was not legitimate. And he even sued YouTuber Apollo Legend who made a video on him. It's kind of crazy how much this guy likes to sue. He's become a big staple in video game history, especially speedrunning history, because of how insane he was over his record that he cheated for. King Kong lawsuit. In the early 80s, Universal sued Nintendo, claiming that Donkey Kong infringed on their King Kong trademark. Universal argued that the game's plot, characters, and overall concept were too similar to King Kong. But Nintendo successfully defended the lawsuit, stating that Universal had previously argued in court that King Kong was in the public domain. So eventually the court ruled in favor of Nintendo, finding no trademark infringement and no consumer confusion between the two characters. While I get Nintendo arguing that King Kong was public domain, they literally took the Kong from King Kong. They only added Donkey to make the character seem more stubborn. Aside from that, I just don't see a super visible connection between them. I really don't think anyone was confusing Donkey Kong and King Kong. No Hopers. Cranky's Video Game Heroes is an award ceremony hosted by Cranky in Donkey Kong Country 2. The contest shows the video game heroes on a podium, and in the bottom right corner, a gun very similar to Earthworm Jim's can be seen next to a garbage can labeled No Hopers. This seems to imply that Jim tried the challenge and failed, but since Nintendo had no right over Shiny Entertainment's character, they could only say that the gun was similar to Jim's, but isn't actually his. In the Game Boy Advance version of the game, the garbage can was completely removed. The challenge that Earthworm Jim supposedly failed was a challenge Cranky Kong held, where you'd have to beat the game in under an hour. but when people tried doing this, nothing happened. So finally, Rareware employees were asked about this mystery, and they said a special fun mode was planned where you'd be able to play as Cranky Kong. Just for fun, it would be super slow because of his crutch, so he obviously couldn't beat the game in under an hour, but unfortunately it never made it in. So Cranky Kong's challenge that Earthworm Jim failed just never existed. Diddy Kong Pilot. Diddy Kong Pilot was a planned sequel to Diddy Kong Racing, but it was cancelled. Some builds were leaked online, so that's the gameplay you're seeing now, but this game was going to replace the vehicles in Diddy Kong Racing with airplanes, and feature Diddy Kong and other characters from the Donkey Kong universe in flying races. Even though it got cancelled, not all of it was necessarily scrapped. The game was eventually reworked into what became Banjo Pilot, an entry in the Banjo-Kazooie franchise instead. So while all the Donkey Kong stuff was scrapped, the game itself was more reworked than completely gotten rid of. Kerosene. Kerosene is a boss exclusive to the Game Boy Advance remake of Donkey Kong Country 2. He's a huge fire-breathing Kremling who's the third to last boss in the game. The boss is well made and everything, it's a really cool looking character, but this character just never came back in any future Donkey Kong games. Hidden Rainbow Coin. There was a hidden rainbow coin in DK64 that was only discovered in 2017. Originally, people thought there was only 15 of these, and there should only be 15. With 5 Kongs, 3 coins each, makes sense. But this one was found possibly left over or a secret by the devs 17 years after the game's release. Just insane that something like this could go hidden for almost an entire person's childhood, and no one know about it. The room under DK Island. You can get under DK Island in the N64 game by doing a swimming glitch, while underneath this island is K. Rool's control room. A lot of games have rooms like this out of bounds because they need to be somewhere and, well, they may not fit where they need to be in the story, but this one you can actually just glitch into. It's super weird to get into it, but you can totally just visit there by swimming. Funky's Fugue was written for Killer Instinct. The song Funky's Fugue, a well-known song from the original Donkey Kong Country game, was originally composed for Killer Instinct, the fighting game, and then was later in production repurposed for DKC. You wouldn't expect it, but if you take a listen to it, I have it going in the background, it would also work with a fighting game. DK Racing Trailer. At E3 2001, a trailer for Donkey Kong Racing was shown. No, not Diddy Kong Racing, Donkey Kong Racing, which isn't a game. And we actually have the entire trailer still. The game was cancelled in 2002 alongside Donkey Kong Coconut Crackers, a game I'll talk about more in depth later on, but Donkey Kong Racing was initially planned to release on the GameCube. Unfortunately, all we have is the trailer, so we don't even know what the game would have really looked like. Rambunctious. Rambunctious is a beta animal buddy. Friendly animals in the Donkey Kong franchise. First revealed in the 69th issue of Nintendo Power, he was set to appear in Donkey Kong Land, a Game Boy Donkey Kong game, but was scrapped from the final game despite having its own official artwork. We don't know why it was scrapped, the devs haven't talked about it, but there was some information on what he would have been able to do in the game in the Nintendo Power issue he was revealed in. His use for the player would have been to climb things, and he may have used his horns to defeat different enemies. So just climbing up big walls, being able to attack, a pretty basic animal in the game, but it wouldn't make it into any future games and not into Donkey Kong Land. DKC Competition Cartridge. After the Nintendo Power Fest 1994 game competition and the second Blockbuster World Video Game Championship, these Donkey Kong Country competition cartridges were sold in a Nintendo Power subscribers catalog. Due to its rarity, the back insert says there was only 2,500 copies, the games become a super rare collector's item, and aside from the cartridge looking different, the actual game itself is a bit different too. The game consists of a few levels from Donkey Kong Country with the addition of a point counter and a few minor tweaks to encourage scoring, the goal being to score as many points as possible. The tree and banana cave at the start of Jungle Hijinks have been completely disabled, and all of the animal tokens in early levels were replaced with banana bunches, making it impossible to reach a bonus round without cheating. The player is also given 50 starting extra lives instead of the 5 in the original game, and the game has a time limit of 5 minutes, which is displayed right in the center of your screen. And after the allotted time, the game freezes and resets. Obviously, it's super rare to see a physical of these for sale. The price ranges quite a lot, with the case alone selling for almost $7,000. and the actual game itself around $8,000. And if you want everything all together, that's a $17,000 purchase. Yeah, these are very unique, but very, very rare. K. Rool's wife. K. Rool does and doesn't have a wife? It's weird. It's mentioned in Donkey Kong Country 3 by K. Rool that he has a wife, but the devs said that this was a throwaway line, that it's not canon. But K. Rool's supposedly non-existent wife does make a physical appearance in 2 different Donkey Kong Country 3 manga. In both, she's called Oku-san, or just wife, and described as beautiful by her name tag and description. She's a Kremling, just like K. Rool, and in both mangas, she's wearing a French maid outfit, and both of them have some pretty weird dialogue when she's in it, like K. Rool's caught watching ecchi. Don't look that up if you're under 18. It's really weird. But she's referred to as Queen Crap with a K or Queen Meyer, but it's debated whether or not this wife of K. Rool is actually canon. She never appears in the games, so a lot of fans say she isn't. Redneck Kong. To the left of Donkey Kong here in the cover of Diddy Kong Pilot, we can see Redneck Kong, or Hillbilly Kong was another name for him. He was set to appear in Diddy Kong Pilot, but since the game never came out, we never got this Redneck Kong. I'm assuming it would have been one of the stereotype dumb characters. We missed out. Evelyn Novakovic. David Wise gets a lot of credit for doing Donkey Kong music, and he deserves it, of course. I mean, he's done insanely good music in the franchise. But another good composer for Donkey Kong often gets overshadowed by him. This is Evelyn Novakovic. She's composed tons of music for the franchise, and some of the most iconic songs are by her. Like the song playing right now, Simian Segway, was by her. The pairing of Evelyn Novakovic and David Wise was just perfect for the Donkey Kong franchise, and unfortunately she gets overshadowed by him a lot. Tier 3. Miyamoto misquote. There's a big sort of urban rumor that Miyamoto hates Donkey Kong, or at least doesn't like the gameplay, and the quote that supports this is where he says, "Donkey Kong Country proves gamers will put up with mediocre gameplay if the art is good." End quote. Well, it turns out this quote just never existed. It was just a hoax. Miyamoto obviously likes Donkey Kong, and people spread this for no reason. Jungle Bee is the first E10 Plus rated game. March 22nd, 2005, the rating E10 Plus was created, and the first game this rating was given to was Donkey Kong Jungle Beat, a GameCube Donkey Kong game where you'd play by hitting the Donkey Kong bongos. It was a very weird game. They ended up making multiple of them, and I'll talk about it more later in the video, but it's now a footnote in game ratings as the first E10 Plus rated game. Skylanders. Turbocharged Donkey Kong is a special Skylander amiibo hybrid. Just like Hammer Slam Bowser, who's another supercharger, the supercharger Skylanders were normal Skylanders, but also had vehicles, Donkey Kong's being the Barrel Blaster. So this Donkey Kong Skylander was only playable on the Wii U version of the game, with the starter pack of it having him, and he used 2 massive barrels as his weapons. Aside from it being Donkey Kong and Skylanders, which is already really cool, Nintendo didn't have too much in Skylanders, so the fact that it was Donkey Kong chosen and not someone like Mario is really shocking. Also, in Skylanders, his Soul Gem ability would let Diddy Kong fly around and help you in fights. It seemed like an out-of-nowhere collaboration because Nintendo usually doesn't let other games have their characters, but this one was really good. Metroid cameos. 4 years after Tropical Freeze was released, a Metroid was found in the background of level 4-3. In the background here, right above Donkey Kong, is a Metroid swimming around. To actually see this Metroid, it's an Easter egg, so you need to have more than a heart, pass the first signpost in the underwater section, and immediately head back once you're done with the water, and the Metroid appears. It's a really cool Easter egg, and it works on both the Wii U and Switch versions of the game. DK64 broke a Guinness World Record. Donkey Kong 64 holds a Guinness World Record, probably not for what you think. DK64 holds the world record for the most collectible items in a platform video game, featuring 3,821 collectible items, being the Rareware coins, banana coins, watermelons, and headphones. Having a lot of collectibles is nice, like the new Donkey Kong game has a lot of them. It's fun, but 3,821? I don't know if that's an enjoyable amount of collectibles. Stanley was in Greenhouse before Donkey Kong 3. Stanley the Bugman is the protagonist of Donkey Kong 3. and its sequel Daigyakushu. I probably butchered that name, but every version of Donkey Kong 3, this is the protagonist. But it turns out he actually first appeared in the game Greenhouse for the Game & Watch, where he's equipped with a sprayer to combat pesticides, and he just carries that sprayer over into Donkey Kong. So the main character of all of Donkey Kong 3 wasn't even for Donkey Kong. Nintendo just reused him from another game. Donkey Kong Coconut Crackers. DK Coconut Crackers was a cancelled puzzle game for the Game Boy Advance. The game was shown off at E3 2001 and was originally planned for a release in November of that year. It was postponed ahead of time because of the acquisition from Microsoft in September 2002 of Rareware, and because of the buyout, the game was completely cancelled. In the making of the game, it shifted around a lot in what the game was actually going to be like. Like at one point, Donkey Kong wasn't even in the game, and some of the titles considered were Splunge, Nutcracker, Animal Crackers, and Sunflower. So the game's theme didn't really matter for it. Donkey Kong just happened to be in it. Rare considered reworking it into a Banjo-Kazooie spin-off after the buyout, and it would have been called Banjo's Jiggy Jungle, but it was eventually converted into its own game called Mr. Pants. And it's a weird one. It might have been for the best that this game was moved away from Donkey Kong, because it's not the best. Real guns. In early development of DK64, the Kong's weapons were initially going to be real firearms, including a double-barreled shotgun for Donkey Kong and pistols for Diddy Kong. They were later changed to fruit-based weapons, the coconut shooter, peanut pop guns, weapons like that, to avoid controversy. But at one point they were going to be realistic guns, and supposedly when Miyamoto, the game's overseer, saw an early build, he was horrified by the realistic guns and suggested the fruit-based designs instead. Diddy Kong Racing CD. There's a soundtrack CD for Diddy Kong Racing that's shaped like Diddy's face, which is pretty cool. It's a unique shape, but because of the shape, it wasn't playable in most CD players. Like car radios and pretty much any normal tray-style CD player, it didn't work. Just very odd to have it shaped like his face if it's not gonna work in too much. Silver Donkey Kong glitch. In DKC, through doing a glitch where you start riding a silver barrel in the ground and mounting Rambi at the same time, you can make it so you're riding a silver clone of the Kong you're playing as. So you can ride a silver Diddy Kong or Donkey Kong. It's a very weird glitch, but it's pretty easy to pull off. Donkey Kong Country 2 Virtual Boy. During the development of Donkey Kong Land, a two-person team inside of Rare was tasked with seeing what was possible on the Virtual Boy by porting Donkey Kong Country 2 to the console. The first member, Stephen Hurst, was brought onto the project to assist a currently unknown programmer who was the other member of the team. Hurst had previously worked on graphics of the Super Nintendo version of the game and started taking sprites from the Game Boy version of Donkey Kong Country and using them in this development. They ended up making a few scrolling screens and a title screen, but the port's development didn't last too long. Not much progress was made past those screens. According to Hurst, it would have been very similar to Donkey Kong Land, but with a stereoscopic 3D effect unique to the Virtual Boy. The 3D effect was apparently really good, and the techniques required to achieve it were very taxing on the console, but the making of it was cancelled, with the Virtual Boy selling terribly. Unfortunately, we don't have any screenshots or recording of the port, just what the developers have said. The Diddy laugh. Every time you start up Diddy Kong Racing, you'll hear this laugh. And if it sounds familiar, that's because this is like the Wilhelm scream. It's been used in so many different things. It's been used in different horror movies, commercials. It's insane how much it's been in, and it's known as the Diddy laugh because of how popularized it got from Diddy Kong Racing. I'll play some examples now, and it's crazy seeing it in so many different things.
Strong hands.
Uncle Kong. Uncle Kong, also shortened to UK, is a character who only appears in the Famitsu strategy guide for DKC2, just called Super Donkey Kong 2 Guidebook. He's a Kong who always has a hat and red jacket on, and black tie with his initials on it, and he's got a mustache just like Bluster Kong's. Despite Uncle Kong being known as an uncle, we don't know whose uncle he is. In the guide, he states he's not a member of the Kong family at all, he's just a merchant who sells bananas, and despite his unique appearance, he only appears in the guide and has never been referenced since. Stickerbrush Symphony wasn't created for the Bramble levels. Stickerbrush Symphony wasn't created for the Bramble levels. It was originally composed for an unused water level until David Wise was asked last minute to make a piece of music for the Bramble levels. We only know this because David Wise was interviewed by YouTuber GameXplain, and they went on to talk about this. I recommend watching it, it's really interesting. But it makes a lot of sense. The Bramble music really does sound like music that'd be used in a water level. Morning, Diddy, and Dixie. In the files of Donkey Kong Country 2, there's unused sprites of Diddy and Dixie Kong mourning. Mourning what? We don't know. Some fans think Donkey Kong was meant to die in Country 2 originally, and these sprites may have been used as a reaction to it, but I doubt it. I don't think they'd be killing off such a massively popular character. The sprites were for sure intended for most likely a character death, but I really don't think it would have been Donkey Kong's. Johnny Blastoff and the Kremling Armada. Johnny Blastoff and the Kremling Armada is a cancelled point-and-click adventure game that was meant to play like Monkey Island. It was in development by Rare for PC in the early 90s, before the team fully started working on Donkey Kong Country. The Kremlings, the crocodilians that appear in the Donkey Kong franchise, were originally made for this lost game, and only later reused for Donkey Kong Country, becoming canon in the Donkey Kong world. Greg Mayles, the creative director of Rare and designer of the Donkey Kong Country series, is a big fan of pirate content, so this Johnny Blastoff and the Kremling Armada was conceived as a game to fulfill his love for pirates. And it would have been set throughout a series of islands with coconut palms, galleons, hidden treasures, the complete stereotype for a pirate game. And then that theme was obviously reused for Donkey Kong Country, but while Rare was never able to officially announce the game to the public, and no prototype was ever released, in September of 2015, Greg Mayles shared some concept art on Twitter, showing off the original Kremling designs and how they would have resembled Battletoads in a way. He was also designer of Battletoads, so them looking similar makes a lot of sense. I really hope at some point we get more Kremling content. I mean, getting a game where you could play as them would be amazing. I've been playing through Bonanza. I'll say 5 layers in or so. I've not seen any yet. I'm not exactly expecting any, but it would be amazing. King Keith rule. When someone asked Greg Mayles what the K and K rule stood for, since we, never knew, he said in this response, nothing. It was just a way of making him seem more important, that he'd added it to inflate his ego. In hindsight, it probably would have been something tonal like Kremling, or something deliberately out of character like Keith. What do you reckon it should stand for? End quote. So yeah, it doesn't officially mean Keith, but it would have been hilarious, and it was the idea by the original creator. Donkey Kong Country Exposed. Donkey Kong Country Exposed is the name of a VHS tape sent to subscribers of Nintendo Power. It showcased behind-the-scenes footage of Donkey Kong Country along with tips from the game testers. It's about 13 minutes long, with the entirety of it being on YouTube, and at the end of the VHS, it gave subscribers of Nintendo Power a brief sneak peek at Killer Instinct, a game they were also working on. Creepy game over screen. Donkey Kong Country game over screens are oddly creepy. Even starting with the first one, both Kongs have band-aids all over them with a dark background. This trend kept throughout the Country games, and they're all just really oddly creepy looking. Planet Donkey Kong. If you thought the Donkey Kong Country cartoon was weird, and you just needed some more odd Donkey Kong content, there's a French Donkey Kong show that aired between 1996 and 2001 that's also very weird. Aside from the Donkey Kong original content, the Kongs would also commentate over other TV content. It was really weird, and throughout it they would show off snippets of the other Donkey Kong Country show. It's the same bowling alley quality though. It's kind of disturbing. Pink Donkey Kong Jr. Donkey Kong Jr. Math is an educational platformer Donkey Kong game made by Nintendo, released in Japan in December of 1983 for the Famicom, and later in America and Europe in '86 for the NES. Aside from it being obviously kinda weird being an educational Donkey Kong game, it was the second game to feature Donkey Kong Jr., and if you were player 2, you'd play as a pink Donkey Kong Jr. This is the first and last time this pink version of Jr. was ever playable in any game. Vine Valley Smokestacks. An old render of Donkey Kong Island had smokestacks where Vine Valley are in the final game. In the final game, they're not there, so this was probably removed to make the island seem more natural and friendly. This might have gone away after you beat that level there, because the Kongs obviously don't have a factory. It was most likely going to be the Kremlings. Maybe when you went through the level, it would then disappear afterwards. We just don't know. It's only in an old render. Donkey Kong vs. Super Wario. Early concepts for Donkey Kong Country reveal that the game was originally going to be called Donkey Kong vs. Super Wario, and the plot of the game was going to revolve around Wario stealing a time machine Mario invented and using a fancy sort of futuristic gun to turn Mario into stone. Then a parrot that Mario would have had for some reason would flap off and go get Donkey Kong's help, but this pitch didn't make it super far, as Nintendo wanted new villains for the game. So the entire story got scrapped, but we still do have some leftover concept art images of what the game might have looked like. Super Donkey. Super Donkey is an unreleased platformer game that was discovered in the 2020 Nintendo leak. It starred an unnamed aviator or explorer character who resembles Mr. U from their earlier game Sky Skipper. Some unused sprites within the ROM and related material found elsewhere in the asset leak suggest that this was a Donkey Kong related project, with the aviator, Mario, and Link all being considered for the protagonist role. File dates for the game suggest that the available ROM was built sometime between 91 and 92, and with Donkey Kong being and Sky Skipper as an enemy, you know, before Donkey Kong was a thing, everything kind of lines up for this being related to Sky Skipper. Plus, I mean, the main character, it looks just like him. We don't know if any more development was made past this point of the 2020 Nintendo leak, but a lot of different elements from Super Donkey would eventually be used in Super Mario World 2, Yoshi's Island, and it's believed that Yoshi's Island is what became of this project years later. Unused K. Rool death theme. In the files of Donkey Kong Country 2, there's an unused K. Rool death theme, which I'll play right now. But obviously, K. Rool doesn't die, and this theme was never used. It could have also just been referring to you dying in a fight against K. Rool. Either way, this pretty good theme just went unused, and is still in the files. Donkey Kong Land boss theme in Blast Core. When making Blast Core, a Rareware N64 game, the developers remixed the boss theme from Donkey Kong Land and used it in the game. I'll play both side by side, and comparing the two, it's very obvious. Tier 4. Anime songs in the Donkey Konga trilogy. Throughout the Donkey Konga games, the ones where you have to play the bongos to play the game, there's anime songs, just in the games, and there's quite a lot of them as well. They have the Pokemon Advance opening theme, Pokemon Advance opening theme number 2, and even another Pokemon intro. Why are there so many Pokemon intros in a Donkey Kong game? But aside from that, there's also really famous ones like Naruto, Full Metal, Sergeant Frog. It's crazy how many they have, and I'm really shocked they were able to get the rights to have full-blown anime songs in their game. Mr. X. This is Cackle. He was a pirate Kremling who lived during the time of the Kremling Cutthroats, pirate Donkey Kong time, and he appears in Donkey Kong Country 2, chasing after Diddy and Dixie Kong throughout the Haunted Hall level. Well, this is his original design shown off in Nintendo Power, and he was called Mr. X back then, and he looked way more like a pirate. This design, in my opinion, looks way better, and he looks kinda scary for a Nintendo game. I really wish this design was used at all in the game. Robot Carbine. Carbines are small robotic owl-looking enemies in Donkey Kong Country 3, and in Donkey Kong Land 3. They're named after carbines, as in a type of gun, and these carbines carry massive cannons. And while these enemies are really cool, their design is just really good, their initial design was way different and, in my opinion, better. Instead of being a robotic owl, initially they were called crosshairs and were flying robotic apes, and still had the same cannon. In my opinion, we missed out. These scrapped crosshairs were awesome, and it really stinks that they didn't make it into the game. Wait, what? What? They're in Bonanza? What? Yeah, pretty soon after Bonanza came out and I was just finishing the script, I just found them in Bonanza. They don't look the same, but they are the robotic apes holding cannons. How? This design is 30 years old. That's awesome. Crocodile Core is the source of all Kremlings. Crocodile Core is the second and true final boss level of Donkey Kong Country 2. It's a massive volcano with a Kremling head-shaped entrance, and its interior is a shrine that has artifacts like armored Kremling statues, altars, treasure, weaponry, and this Crocodile Core, in the middle here, is the power source of Crocodile Isle, which is caused by a geyser of pink and blue energy emitting out of its volcano crater. Well, it's said in the manual of the game that this lost world in the Crocodile Core is the source of all Kremlings. So yeah, this geyser is the source of all the crocodiles throughout the Donkey Kong franchise, all the Kremlings. K. Rool's face in the rocks. In Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze, the face of K. Rool can be seen in these rocks as a little Easter egg. This game doesn't have any Kremlings in it, but they still wanted to reference them at least. Donkey Kong Country Barrel Maze. Donkey Kong Country Barrel Maze is a browser Donkey Kong game licensed by Nintendo, published to CandyStan.com. Throughout the different levels, the player controls a barrel loaded with bananas and has to roll it through a series of obstacles to reach DK at the end. Yeah, you don't play as DK, you play as a rolling barrel. It was a very mild game. I mean, it was on browser, so you can't expect too much, and it was on Adobe Shockwave, which isn't even a thing anymore, so that says a lot about the game, aside from the site not being up anymore. It was an old browser game, and it's been 6 feet under for quite a long time. Donkey Kong 5 The Journey of Over Time and Space. DK5 The Journey of Over Time and Space is a bootleg Game Boy Color game that's a direct copy of Super Mario Bros. Deluxe, but with Donkey Kong elements. Why Diddy Kong in this game is blue, I don't know, but you can tell it's just a Mario copy with a Donkey Kong skin. It's a Game Boy Color game, so I wouldn't expect it to be super long, but it is only 20 minutes. Overall, it's a very obvious bootleg. Metroid Secret. Like mentioned earlier, there's multiple Metroid Easter eggs throughout the Donkey Kong games, and in Tropical Freeze, aside from the water one, there's another really obvious Metroid reference. In the Busted Bayou level, in the background you can see Samus's ship, and there's no question if it's the ship or not. If I overlay her ship onto it, yeah, it looks exactly the same. Big Ape City is New Donk City. Big Ape City is a large city area near the center of Donkey Kong Island and Donkey Kong Land for the Game Boy, and there's a theory that this city and New Donk City are the same place, just years apart. If you compare the two, it certainly looks like it. It's never explicitly confirmed, Nintendo just doesn't do that a whole lot, but it is kind of implied, at least design-wise. They look very similar. The island head is gone because K. Rool blew it up. The Donkey Kong Island originally had a Donkey Kong face in it. It no longer has the DK face in Donkey Kong Country Returns though, and it's likely because of K. Rool's weapon in Donkey Kong 64, just completely got rid of the Donkey Kong face. Without K. Rool using that weapon, the island would have likely looked the same as it did in the 90s. Rare logo and coral. Despite making Donkey Kong Country Returns all by themselves, Retro Studios, who made the game, featured a tribute to Rareware, who originated the series. If you go to Options in DKC Returns in the menu screen, you can catch a glimpse of some coral shaped exactly like the Rareware logo. Just a nice nod to who started the Donkey Kong Country series. Tier 5. Donkey Kong 3 Daigyakushu. Donkey Kong 3 Daigyakushu is a 1984 PC Donkey Kong game, and the game's not a port, more of a semi-sequel to Donkey Kong 3. Stanley's ability to jump is removed, along with the need to protect plants, making it a lot more like a traditional shooter like Galaga. It's really odd because it really just feels like Galaga with a Donkey Kong skin, and aside from it almost being a weird Galaga clone, it was also on PC. There's not many Donkey Kong games back then that were on PC. If this one might have done better, or the franchise might have made its way onto PC. Crazy Kong. Crazy Kong is a Nintendo-licensed adaptation of Donkey Kong made in 1981 for the Japanese market, as the unexpected popularity of the original game led to a shortage of arcade cabinets. The gameplay remains pretty much the same. The sprites underwent some changes, so it looks a bit different from the original though. But Crazy Kong is never used in any Donkey Kong home ports. It was completely retired by Nintendo, meaning outside of its original release, it's never been re-released. So you've pretty much gotta sail the 7 seas to play this game now. Saturday Supercade. Saturday Supercade was an animated TV series made for Saturday mornings in 1983, and it ran for 2 seasons on CBS. It was an anthology series that had 4 11-minute segments based on different games, and in the first season they had Frogger, Donkey Kong, and Donkey Kong Jr. As you can see from the footage, it's all on YouTube, you can watch it if you want. It's old, so it looks a bit cursed compared to nowadays, but at the time this was really big for Donkey Kong fans. Donkey Kong Country 4 DS. DKC4 was pitched to Nintendo but ended up getting rejected. It was going to be on the DS, and apparently one of the big reasons this was suggested was because remaking the trilogy for the Game Boy Advance gave the developers all the experience and good basis for a sequel. Unfortunately though, it was cancelled, and we have pretty much nothing from it. No real development was done, not even a full title or box art was made. All we know for sure is that it was pitched to Nintendo and completely shut down. Banana Day 24. Donkey Kong Banana Day 24 is a 6-page comic published in the June 1996 issue of the German Club Nintendo magazine, and the story of it is kinda wild. The comic opens with the Kong sleeping in a jungle, and once everyone wakes up, Diddy and Cranky explain that it's Christmas Eve. Dixie suggests preparing a party, but suddenly starts shivering, and then Cranky sees snow falling from the sky, something the Kongs don't experience. I mean, Tropical Freeze still has 18 years to come out, but the Kongs turn on the TV and the newscaster explains that the temperature has dropped dramatically on Earth, with the US president having been invited to a summit to find a solution. The Kongs eventually decide to travel to the US to talk to the president. They burst into the White House and almost immediately get informed what's going on. A giant spaceship is pulling Earth away from the sun, making the temperature way lower. Immediately after being told what's going on, the Kongs are given a spaceship to go up and fix the issue, launching out of Cape Canaveral, of course. Really weird for me. I've been there multiple times in real life. But Cranky spots a huge UFO towing the planet, and then the three Kongs are beamed into the UFO. They see the aliens, and they look near identical to the Kongs, but are huge and have green and blue skin. They welcome the Kongs kindly, but admit they mistook the Earth for a huge coconut. And to solve this, the Kongs leave bananas for the aliens, claiming they're much tastier than coconuts, and then all is resolved, and the Kongs are told they'll be contacted in the case of future emergencies. Just a very crazy and filled story for a 6-page comic. Oh, and then Santa, of course, shows up at their celebration. Crimean War. The Great Ape War has been sort of a meme in the Donkey Kong community, but a war is mentioned in Donkey Kong Country 3. When talking to the character Bazooka, they say, "I fought in the Crimean War. Don't you know? But I've retired from the service along with Big Bessie." The Crimean War in the game being with a K, obviously being a play on the real-life Crimean War with a C. In lore, all we know about this in-game war is that it was a thing, and the brother bears were in it. That's pretty much it. There's almost no information on this. Uton Island. The German website for Donkey Kong 64 was filled with facts about the Kongs seemingly pulled out of thin air, such as Lanky Kong hailing from a Uton Island. And none of this is canon, but they might have been onto something. When you meet the Manky Kongs in Donkey Kong Country 1, it happens in a level right after a bridge, meaning that the Orangutan Gang level might be happening on a separate island, possibly a Uton Island. So the German website might have been right. Donkey Kong Coconut Crackers ad in Food Fight trailer. At the start of the 2002 trailer for Food Fight, you can see in the top right there's an ad for DK Coconut Crackers. It's on the screen for all of maybe 3 seconds, but it is there. Stickerbrush Symphony Japanese video. The YouTube account Taya777 uploaded this video in 2012. It may seem basic, just playing Stickerbrush Symphony, but it became a bit of a phenomenon that me and many others got to be a part of. And you can too. With Stickerbrush Symphony playing in the background on a video you'll come across at the weirdest times, it evokes a special feeling that's kind of hard to describe, but someone in the Discord for this video, yes, it's that big, they have a Discord, did a pretty good job at describing it, and this is what they had to say. When people listen to this song and see the background of vines and sky, it invokes a sense of nostalgia and curiosity. It's hard to explain. It brings you back to a simpler time when everything was controlled and bliss, but it can also amplify the current state you're in, causing a complete reevaluation of yourself and perhaps an epiphany of your existence as well. End quote. While the music is just amazing and relaxing, I mean it's perfection, it's the comments section that really makes this video what it is. Many people have found solace in the comments section as they pour their hearts and souls out to other anonymous people on the internet. It's unknown what the first sort of spiritual comment was, but when the video got recommended to me around 2019-ish, I remember seeing people question everything about themselves and their lives. In many different languages too. Japanese, Spanish, English. This video had people from all over the globe spilling their hearts, leaving what was dubbed internet checkpoints in the comments. What's most interesting is how Taya777's video happens to randomly appear in your recommended. I mean, it's pretty weird to get a video in your recommended out of nowhere, an entirely Japanese title with a mysterious foresty thumbnail. I mean, any intrigued soul would click on it, but this video pops up a lot. When I clicked on this video during scripting and listened while writing, I got it recommended to me probably another 6 times by the time I'm actually recording this voiceover. But unfortunately, the original video was taken down by Nintendo when they were going through their escapade throughout 2021. Being awful with copyright. Taya777's video still exists, but it had to be privated. But a new video surfaced, a direct copy from the user Oxygen. I think that's how you pronounce that. But this is the new form of checkpoint video, and it's the exact same. The video gets recommended to me quite a lot during the late hours of the night when I'm just not feeling the best, and then this is a nice pick-me-up. In fact, in the comments you can see a checkpoint of mine from when I was 17. I turned 20 in the editing of this video. But as the outro music rolls, I'll read off my checkpoint from back then. June 26, 2023. I've been doing pretty good. My relationship with my girlfriend has now gone on for almost a year and a half, and I want to spend the rest of my life with her. To me, she's beautiful, funny, nerdy, and perfect. Back on Taya777's video, I talked about how life was getting hard and was really down. Well, guess what? It got better. And I can't wait to see what'll happen in the future. I mean, hell, I'm turning 18 in 26 days. It's a bit scary, but so far it seems like it'll get even easier from here on out. And even if it doesn't, I'll always have her to help me through. Well past me, I can say things did get easier, and she's still the love of your life. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day, week, month, and I'll see you in the next one.